The night is already deep, but the workmate Lao Lu suddenly ran to my bedside. Hey, Lao Zhou, do you know, recently our construction site came a group of women, that one not only good-looking, but also particularly gentle. A look at the feeling of tender can pinch out the water. I heard that they only appear at night, daytime cannot see the people. Do you think it is strange? I looked at the mysterious and puzzled old Wang, and rolled over with some disdain. Where did you hear the gossip again? Day by day, on the work have not seen you so serious, this thing you are very well informed. How have I not heard of it? Besides this big night, where to get a woman, day after day, just think of beautiful things. Seeing me so a set of indifferent attitude, old Lu suddenly anxious, hastily proved to me. All true, today during the daytime my old folks and I said, he also said, those women will also accompany you to play the game, and he went once last night. Childish, if you don't believe me, now go out with me to see will know. After saying that, old Lu wanted to pull me up. I, on the other hand, just wanted to sleep and didn't believe his rhetoric at all. On your hometown that looks, really not I shabby him, looks crooked nose slanting eyes, can still have a beautiful woman look at him, also accompany him to play games. This is not that I speak harshly, the main old Lu said this is too outrageous. His hometown looks really shabby, eyes one big and one small, mouth is also a little crooked, not to mention a man who always work in the construction site. Basically here are 30 or 40 years old, or even 50 or 60 years old rural people, day after day crawling, dirty, work and have to work hard, sweat, that is even more smelly. And all have no money and no looks, where can there be any beauty on such a person? Dare to say that those beautiful women will accompany these people to play games, killed me do not believe. But old Lu is patting his chest to assure me, he absolutely did not lie to me, these are his owner's herd, absolutely not false, and his hometown certainly will not lie to him. He said, as long as the night after 11 o'clock, go to the construction site dormitory, see which room can still light up, then you go to push the door directly into the inside of the beauty of a top of the good-looking, and will pull you to play games with her. He kept his mouth and I do guarantee, and also kept pulling me, have to let me accompany him to see. This year, the site boss seems to be a new person like, a change in the past stingy look, in advance of all the money to pay off the work. And also give us a few days early vacation, also because of this reason, now I can comfortably lie in the dormitory. The others were the same, everyone was thinking that they could take this year's income, buy some good things, and then buy a train ticket to prepare to go home for the new year. I'm the same, I went out shopping all day during the day, and prepared the New Year's goods I want to bring home early. So, I'm very tired now, just want to take a good nap and have a good rest, don't want to accompany him to toss this trip at all. But the old Lu was unprecedented insistence, but also have to pull me to go, but also repeatedly with me to ensure that there must be, did not lie to me, as long as I accompanied him to go to the time to find nothing, then he will tomorrow to treat me to a meal, then atone for the crime. I looked at the old Lu who had already put his words to this point, and curiosity welled up in my heart. Could there really be such a group of beautiful women at the construction site? Looking at old Lu's serious and anxious look, I finally couldn't hold back my curiosity and decided to accompany him for a walk. If this kid dares to lie to me, I will ruthlessly slaughter him tomorrow. I put on my clothes and followed the excited old Lu out of the dormitory. I asked him where he was and he did not say, just buried his head and took me to a corner of the construction site. This direction I know, just a few days ago was cleared out, said the new employees after the new year to give them a dormitory site prepared in advance. I myself didn't believe there was such a thing as old Lu said, and only intended to accompany him on his walk so that he wouldn't disturb my rest again, and that I could still have a good meal tomorrow. But when I saw that vacant lot, a new staff dormitory had already been built by now, and the lights were still on in a few rooms upstairs. My heart jumped, could it be that what old Lu said was true? What kind of people are living there in the middle of the night? I felt my curiosity getting stronger and stronger, and couldn't help but speed up my steps, even surpassing old Lu who was leading the way in front. Still saying you don't believe me, you're running faster than me when you see the light. Old Lu spat at me, then he also quickened his pace, heading straight for that dormitory. By the time we got close to a room that was lit up with light, we vaguely actually heard a woman's voice. Just by listening to the laughter, one could guess that this woman must be young and beautiful. When I thought of this, I couldn't help but look at old Lu, who was also looking at me with eyes full of excitement. Two people seemed to have a tacit understanding in their hearts, all straighten up, probe to look inside the room. This does not know without looking, a look is a shock. The ugly man in the room is not Lalu's hometown, who else can it be? And his opposite really has a woman, big eyes at this time has because happy and squinted into a slit, not only looks very beautiful, but also looks very young, obviously also 25 or 26 years old appearance. And that woman's line is not to say, simply look at my heart restless. Even hate to want to immediately take the place of that ugly man in the room. However, looking at them, it was as if they were exchanging something, because both of them were speaking in a low voice, so it was not too clear to hear. Only to see the woman even slowly came close to the face of the old Lou's hometown. This scene is even more to see my jaw dropped in disbelief. To know that I as a man, and old Lou's hometown is also considered to know for some time. Even so, every time I see his face and that dirty look is a little uncomfortable, and in front of me such a beautiful woman actually do this with him. What the hell is going on here? I couldn't help but ask old Lou, who was watching with great interest beside me. This is really too unbelievable, I am really some puzzled. In fact, it is also my own heart some acid, after all, I am 35 years old, and regardless of looks or height, are far stronger than this man in the room a few times more than. And I'm still a bachelor, this man can have such a beautiful woman accompanied, which makes my heart how can swallow this breath. However, old Lou was obviously mesmerized, with a disgusting smile on his face, he didn't even blink his eyes, and it was as if he didn't hear my question. I gently tugged on the corner of his coat, and only then did he wipe the drool from the corner of his mouth and come back to his senses. I don't know, I also came here for the first time, I heard them say it before, why don't we go and look at the other rooms? Lalu was a little embarrassed and bent over, I know in my heart, I just looked so mesmerized, how could I not have any idea? Looking at old Lou who also had a puzzled look on his face, I turned to look at a few other rooms that were lit up and lifted my foot. At this time, the excitement and curiosity in my heart prompted me to want to find out, this room is already such a scene, then the other lighted rooms, at this time what is happening? By the time we had just walked into the other room, the sound of voices talking inside reached our ears. Your turn, brother song. The woman's voice was gentle and delicate, making me feel like my knees couldn't help but bend a little when I heard it. Okay, all according to you, my little baby. The window of this room wasn't completely closed, but left a crack, and that's precisely why we heard old Song's voice that was so excited that it trembled. I am Lao Song, also quite familiar, he and I, is an old bachelor, this year has 45, older than me, because only 1 meter 5, so far even the woman's hand has not been held. However, from the tone of conversation between the two just now, as well as the old song on the woman's name, the two just like a couple general intimacy. Although the window slit is a little biased, cannot see the figure of Lao Song, but from this excited voice can also be heard, he must have encountered a great good thing. Old Lou, realizing how he couldn't see what was going on in the room, scratched his ears anxiously on the side, his eyes full of envy and anxiety. No, what exactly are you saying is going on in there, this old Song, how did he manage to stump up such a good thing? Not only is old Lou curious, I am also curious in my heart, plus just now I vaguely saw the woman's appearance, it is even more resentful to the point of gnashing my teeth. The woman in the first room just now was already going to be prettier than many actresses on TV, and the woman in this room was instead prettier than her, and the lines, simply unforgettable to look at for the rest of one's life. However, this is such a woman in all aspects of the top, but in the old song that dwarf in the room to talk to each other, and may even be more than just chatting so simple, after all, this is the middle of the night, a man and a woman, but also under the same roof, how can only move the mouth it? You say, just such a thing in front of me, my heart and how can balance? I and the old Lou two people are not willing to go back like this, after all, to all come, if really what the goods are not, that is not to be angry all night cannot sleep. Immediately after, the two of us began to walk to the other rooms, but those rooms with lights on, all have weekday workers inside, and the same as the previous two rooms, there are women's laughter coming from inside. Listening to those women's voices inside, and remembering the beautiful faces of the women I saw earlier, I felt as if I had a small hand tickling my heart. There was even a sound in one of the rooms that made both Old Lou and I shiver, and even though the temperature outside was below zero, we both felt like the heat in our hearts was going to set us on fire. Seeing that the lighted room has reached the last room, both of our hearts are in our throats. What if there are still people here? Is this night really a wasted trip? With apprehension, we finally arrived at the door of the last lighted room. The door was not closed, leaving a gap, and there was no sound of anyone talking in the room. We were happier than if we had won the lottery. With a trembling hand, I gently pushed open the door a little, and after seeing who was inside, I was even more excited, my heart pounding so hard that it was about to jump out of my throat. The room sat a woman. She has a head of long black hair, fair skin, beautiful face, give a person a kind of gentle and generous feeling, simply better than those women before, a lilac chong sound, full lines, so that people have a kind of want to follow that open fork to tear the impulse. Just as I was still in a daze, this old boy even took the lead and rushed into the room. My heart that hate myself froze, more hate Old Lou abandoned brothers, alone enjoyment behavior. But since he has already gone in, and it seems that the rules of these rooms are like this, a room can only come in a man, I also have to wait and see what happens at the door. Only to see the Old Lou stood in front of the woman, said something, the woman covered her mouth with a smile, then came to the Old Lou's ear, whispered a few words. This gives the door to see that call the anxious this in the end what is the situation Suddenly, the Old Lou seems to have what order general, hurriedly ran over in my direction. I just want to ask something, but he will be the door violently closed, followed by even the curtains are pulled up, a gap is not left for me. This instantly gave me enough anger, the heart directly greeted the Old Lou's 18 generations of ancestors. Good your Old Lou, I treat you on weekdays is not thin, often late to work is also I help him sign in, and now a good thing, on the contrary, will be thrown me down, their own one person to enjoy, and even look do not let me see. Even if the heart again how to curse, is useless. Not long after the room came the sound of women laughing and giggling, as well as Old Lou's voice interspersed with cheerfulness. Listening to Old Lou's pleased and excited voice, I immediately felt a sense of powerlessness that I was angry and had nowhere to express. At this time it was already the middle of the night, and it was the end of the year, and the cold wind was blowing at me one after another. Just now, I was thinking about the things in those rooms, but now that I saw that there was no hope, I felt so cold that my whole body was shivering. I am not interested in continuing to lie outside the door of this room to listen to the corner, simply wrapped tight close, against the cold wind back to the dormitory. Back to the dormitory I lay on the bed, I thought of the Old Lou, he may now be happy into what kind of it, there may be unexpected gains. I simply think more and more angry, but also some regret to accompany him on this trip. This old boy give me wait, when you come back tomorrow morning, see if I don't pack you a good meal. Strongly enduring the hard feelings in my heart, I finally fell into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, before I woke up, Old Lou came back. The sound of him packing up his bed woke me up. I opened my still somewhat bleary eyes and rubbed them. After seeing that the person who came back was Old Lou, I began to grimace. Yo, this is not last night's sprinter, see the way you rushed into the room yesterday, simply can break the world record, how, this is busy all night finally remembered to come back to the dormitory to sleep. At this time the Old Lou's face was haggard, 2 big dark circles under his eyes proved that he must have not slept all night last night. However, Lao Lu's spirit is very full, there is not a bit of fatigue after staying up all night. Old Lou listening to my mockery is also not angry at all, he also understands that his behavior yesterday was not good. So he rushed to the side of me, showing a pleasing smile. Aya, Lao Zhou, last night was indeed a bad job done by brother, but I only realized after I went in and listened to Xiaorou's sister's explanation that only one person can enter this one room, which I didn't think too much about. But don't worry, brother is definitely thinking of you, I've already asked Xiaorou's sister to leave an empty seat for you, tonight at 11 o'clock, I'll give you a guarantee that you'll definitely have someone to keep you company. I looked at the Old Lou who raised his hand and swore in front of me, the anger in my heart also subsided a lot. Still count on you this guy a little conscience, I thought it had already been a pleasure. Seeing that I had dissipated my anger, Old Lou changed from the pleasing manner he had just shown, and looked at me with a bitter face, with a look of wanting to say something. Looking at Old Lou like this, I got a little impatient, I had already slept late and was woken up by him in the morning. Say what you have to say, fart what you have to say, don't be so abrasive. Old Lou raised his eyelids and looked at me, before he opened his mouth a little embarrassed. Old Joe, that is, can you lend me $10,000? When I heard Old Lou's words, my spirit immediately sobered up and my brows furrowed. Now that it's almost the new year, the construction site has long since settled all the workers' wages, each person even if the minimum must have a 40,000 or so, how can this still come to me to borrow money? See my inquiring eyes, the Old Lou sat down on the opposite side of some feeble, told me the reason. It turned out to be the Old Lou's son is sick, seems to be quite serious, his salary all to the family, but not enough, there is still a difference of 10,000, so it had to come to me to borrow money. In fact, now almost the new year, I do not want to lend money to the Old Lou. But I know him after all, more than a year, not only familiar with the relationship, the future is even more head up to see, but also really some embarrassed to refuse. Look at the Old Lou embarrassed look, I still sighed and promised him. Time flies quickly, in a flash it is 11 o'clock in the evening, I and the Old Lou cleaned up a bit, then out of the door. On the way, we also ran into a few people in the room last night, although we all know each other, but all unspoken did not say anything, just unconsciously accelerated the pace of the feet, for fear that they lagged behind and could not grab a room. After arriving at the new dormitory, Old Lou went straight to the room of the little girl last night, while I was in accordance with the Old Lou's explanation, went to the door of the room he helped me to book. I gently pushed the door and found that the door was locked from the inside, but there was no sound in the room, and the light was still on, so I suddenly understood. I gently knocked on the door and lowered my voice, I was introduced here by Charot. Sure enough, soon the sound of the door opening rang out in the room, and before I could react, there was a small white hand pulling me in. When I reacted, I was already in the room. In front of me stood a short-haired girl, a clear face looks to be the appearance of the early 20s, she was wearing a professional dress, and slightly tender face formed a strong contrast, see my heart thumping. Her pair of big eyes seemed to be able to speak generally, through a sense of quirkiness. While I was still dumbfounded, she had already walked over to the table and sat down. She pointed to the chair next to her, her voice softly calling me over. It was only at this point that I finally came back to my senses and excitedly walked over to sit next to her. Her voice was soft and sticky, giving people a feeling that she was always pampering herself, making people unable to resist the urge to protect her. In my more than 30 years of life, the time I spent with women can be said to be a handful, coupled with the fact that I am now working at the construction site, there is not much opportunity to contact women, let alone such a delicate young girl in front of me. I now feel my heart jump to the throat, nervous palms straight sweat. Now and the girl is so close, her delicate features are more clearly presented in front of me, lips coated with bright lipstick, big eyes blinking, full of tenderness in it, snow-white skin in the light is even more white a few points. I gently sniffed the air, that good smell of fragrance, a burst of mind. Perhaps I was really nervous, the girl saw at a glance that I was at a loss for words. What's wrong, big brother, you're still shy, you're not still a novice, right? Her voice was nice, crisp and bright, and when she said this, her gaze slowly moved down a few points. I was suddenly a little unsure of how to answer, after all, this kind of thing, where is the good sense to talk to a girl in such a bright manner? See, I am really formal. The girl also stopped poking fun at me, and began to chat with a friendly day. The girl's name is Ling Ling, just over 20 this year, her character is very cheerful and generous, but also relatively straight, talking and chatting so that I have a very intimate feeling, such a girl's mind is very delicate, and I can chat with a migrant worker back and forth. Plus she is not changing the sitting position, that a move between the lights so that I have a good burst of panic, cannot help but sum of the imagination up. After 10 minutes of communication, Ling Ling and I also have a basic understanding of each other. Ling Ling took out a small plastic box from under the table. Brother Zhou, let's play a little bit of flying chess, shall we? Listening to Ling Ling's delicate voice, I had long since lost the ability to refuse. Can I? It didn't matter what kind of game I was playing, as long as the one I was playing with was Ling Ling, none of this mattered. Seeing that I agreed, Ling Ling also opened the box and took out a set of flight chess from inside. After placing the chess drawings on the table, She placed my pieces and hers one by one, and then looked at me and said in a gentle voice, "Brother Zhou, do you know how to play this game? We're playing a different kind of chess than we usually do." How is it possible that I don't know how to play flying chess? I've played it too many times. I didn't take my eyes off of Ling Ling, and only at this point did I take the time to look at the drawing of the chess set. After seeing what was on it, my heart skipped a beat. This was not a flying chess, but the words on it made my heart skip a beat, and there was a hint of excitement in my gaze as I looked at Ling Ling. I only saw that the drawings of the flight chess had different squares with not a few moves forward, much less a few moves back, but a variety of penalties written on them. I am the blue side. The blue side's punishment are all $50 to $300 ranging from the fine, while the red side's punishment is. My sight swept over the red party's punishment on the drawing, and my heart immediately had a trace of agitation rising. Simply because the punishment on there was actually minus a piece of clothing, or perhaps dancing for 2 minutes, and also giving Ling Ling and I a chance to get to know each other better. The only unfortunate thing was that I searched the board for a punishment and couldn't find what I had in mind. There were no penalties like that, but just those were enough to satisfy my heart. Seeing me staring blankly at the drawings and hesitating to say anything, Ling Ling shook my arm and asked, "Brother Zhou, do you want to play or not? If you don't want to, then forget it." Looking at Ling Ling said at the end of some aggrieved look, "I feel a soft heart, play, how not to play?" Then I hesitated a bit, "It's just this blue side's punishment." Seeing my hesitation, Ling Ling also tugged my arm into her arms, and the warmth and softness on it made my heart flutter. "Brother Zhou, don't worry, the fine on this is actually just temporarily placed here with me. Wait until you finally win the game, then I will naturally return it with you." Hearing Ling Ling say this, coupled with the softness of my arm, I completely let go of the last trace of concern in my heart and picked up the dice in my hand and rolled it. 4 points. I began to take the pieces and move them around the drawing for 4 squares, but it just wasn't very lucky. This square read, "Fine of 100. Since I had already decided to play, I didn't hesitate in the slightest, and directly took out my cell phone and transferred $100 over to Ling Ling. Then I watched with anticipation as Ling Ling threw the dice. After Ling Ling picked up the dice, my eyes never left her hand, only to see her gently shake the dice in her hand a few times before throwing it. 6 points. Ling Ling also began to move around the drawing with the piece, until the piece finally did land on the grid, and as soon as I took a look at the text on it, my eyes instantly lit up. "Take a piece of cover." Bad luck, Brother Zhou, people don't have a few pieces to lose today." While looking at the punishment above, Ling Ling looked at me with a shy face. "It's okay, there's nothing good about the construction site, it's just that the electricity doesn't cost anything, and the air conditioning is pumped up enough so you won't freeze." I was a little worried that Ling Ling was playing tricks on me, so I hurriedly said, but suddenly realized that I seemed to be a little too eager, and for a while I was a little embarrassed. Ling Ling, on the other hand, gave me a blank look. Pretty girls rolling their eyes are also so beautiful. She began to undo the buttons one by one. My line of sight has been following her small hands, looking at her somewhat slow movements. I hated that I could not directly help her personally. It wasn't until the last button was opened that she slowly took off the outer covering, revealing the thin layer of covering hidden inside. I felt my heart was beating wildly, and my gaze was even more hesitant to leave. As if it was my too outspoken gaze that made Ling Ling a little shy, she waved her hand in front of my eyes. "Brother Zhou, you're not concentrating, do you still want to play the game?" Inattentive. Where am I not concentrating? I'm just distracted because I'm concentrating too much. Playing for fun. I hemmed and hawed. Forcing back the restlessness in my heart, I withdrew my gaze and focused all my attention on the game. I rolled the dice once again. 3 points. I picked up the piece and followed the route on the drawing for 3 squares, which showed a penalty of 50. With Ling Ling's penalty just now, I transferred the pieces even faster this time, fearing a little delay. Now Ling Ling only has the last layer left. If she gets the "take a piece of cover" penalty again this time, then wouldn't she have to? When I thought of this, I felt myself getting a little impatient, my eyes staring deathly at the dice in Ling Ling's hand. Suddenly, I remembered the woman I saw yesterday in that room of old songs. She seemed to be the one who had only the last covering left. Could it be that they were playing this same flying chess? Snap! The sound of the dice landing on the table pulled my thoughts back, only to see Ling Ling roll a point this time. I looked toward the drawing. Her piece was one step forward, where the penalty was. Dance for 2 minutes. I let out a sigh of pity in my heart, and then I began to think about what was going on with this penalty. After seeing the punishment, Ling Ling also didn't hesitate and slowly stood up. Seeing her performance, I finally was able to realize what this, dance for 2 minutes, was really like. Ling Ling first sent a flying kiss to me, and then started dancing. She also took out the stereo and played music. Although the sound wasn't loud, the dynamic rhythm was such that I even wanted to dance along. But now my eyes have been nailed. Ling Ling there, her flexibility has to be said is really good. Looking at her casual and rhythmic swing, I do not even dare to imagine such a her in the arms and how it should feel. Looking at Ling Ling, who was showing off her charms, I realized that the punishment was not worse than what I was expecting. At this time, she no longer had the tenderness and shyness of just now. On the contrary, she looked exceptionally hot, and this strong contrast made me deeply fascinated. 2 minutes of time simply flew by. My side has not appreciated enough. She already with a layer of sweat sat next to me. Seeing that I still looked a bit dazed, she asked me with a smile, "What's wrong, big brother Zhou? Did I just dance badly?" I suddenly came back to my senses and looked at Ling Ling in front of me and said with a smile, "How could it be? It's really too good. It's simply better than those dancers." Hearing my words of praise, Ling Ling then turned into that shy girl again, her face slightly red. "Oily mouth." Ling Ling scolded me, but the smile on her face did not diminish in the slightest. We rolled the dice several times in a row, and I transferred $500 or $600 to Ling Ling one after another, but Ling Ling didn't let me down, and really let me have a good time. Finally, Ling Ling rolled a 6, and as the pieces moved, the punishment I was most looking forward to finally came. Take a cover up. I was so excited that I looked at Ling Ling with a fiery gaze. Ling Ling looked at me, her cheeks turning red. "Humph, you just want to make a fool out of people." "How could I?" I said this on my lips, but the anticipation in that gaze was growing stronger. Seeing that I didn't have the slightest idea of pity, Ling Ling also slowly took down the last piece of covering. I felt like my heart was about to beat 120 times a minute. This feeling was really too exciting. As Ling Ling's small hands slowly lifted a little to the sides, and then loosened the thin rope in her hands, that last covering was finally slowly sliding down. The snowy mountain also finally revealed its true colors. I immediately felt like I was going to catch on fire. That uncontrollable urge simply made me instantly crazy. Ling Ling was also very observant of the rules of the game, and did not have any intention of covering up, just letting me admire the fruits of my hard-won victory. I clenched my hands tightly, fearing that I would lose control and make a big mistake. After all, at this time I have not yet obtained Ling Ling's consent. Naturally I cannot have any out-of-the-ordinary behavior. Seems to be able to see my stoicism, Ling Ling also said softly, "Brother Zhou, I know your pain." In fact, Ling Ling is the same, just we all have to abide by the rules of the game all. At this moment, Ling Ling's pleasant voice was simply a dose of poison, or the kind that I knew the antidote was right in front of me, but couldn't go get it. There was a flash of blood color welling up in my eyes, and my breathing slowed down for a few moments. But I do have another game, that final prize that will both satisfy Brother Zhou and allow us all to end this pain within the rules, but the new game has to start all over again, and now all the rewards you've gotten will have to be taken back. Oh, I don't know if Brother Zhou is willing to do that. Rewards are all going to be taken back. Then wouldn't I have just spent hundreds of dollars for nothing? But then I thought about the final reward Ling Ling had said, and the last trace of hesitation in my heart immediately disappeared. Let's play your new game. I held back the meaty pain in my heart and decided to start over. When Ling Ling heard my reply, she also slowly took back all those rewards she had just received, and I looked at her with some loss. "Don't worry, Brother Zhou, you'll definitely be satisfied with the rewards of that game later. The punishment now is nothing compared to the punishment in that game." Hearing Ling Ling assure me in this way, I also completely put down the last trace of concern in my heart, and began to look forward to what the new game would actually be like. Only to see Ling Ling put away the flying chest just now, and then took out a new plastic box. Under my somewhat puzzled gaze, Ling Ling slowly spread the new drawing of the flying pieces on the table, and the various penalties in that drawing were also clear at a glance. Looking at the penalties inside, the more I looked, the faster my heart beat. If the game just now was a level 1, then this current game was simply a restricted level. No wonder Ling Ling had just assured me so faithfully, so the secret was here. But when I saw the blue side's punishment, I couldn't help but twitch the corner of my eye again. The amount of the penalty had become anywhere from $200 to $1,000 in this drawing, and if I lost a game, not only would I not get the reward, but I would lose everything in the end. However, thinking that he has already smashed in 500 or 600, and also gave up the rewards that he just obtained, if he doesn't play now, won't it be a basket of water? No, I don't believe my luck will be so bad that I can't win a game today. Moreover, looking at the punishment written at the final reward, I immediately made up my mind. The winner can do anything to the loser. As I looked at the good-looking Ling Ling beside me, the final reward image from the game I just played appeared in my brainchild again, and I looked at those upgrade rewards on the drawing. Play one game, just one game. I secretly set a requirement for myself in my mind, one game even if I lose in the end, I won't lose to the point of having no money, but I definitely can't go to the head. Brother Zhou, you don't have to worry, although the amount of punishment is a bit higher, but as long as you win, not only will you get that final reward, but you'll also get all your money back. All. Ling Ling softly calmed me down. I nodded heavily and picked up the new dice on the side. It seemed a little heavier. Could it be my illusion? I was a bit unsure, so I began to shake the dice in my hand non-stop, and in order to prevent Ling Ling from realizing that I was suspicious, I even made a point of chanting under my breath. Heavenly Spirit, Earthly Spirit, bless me for rolling a 6. As the dice were rolled, I finally had a bottom in my heart. 3 points. Brother Zhou, you're too cute, why are you even reciting the mantra? Ling Ling's eyes curled up in laughter at my actions. After I picked up the piece and moved it 3 squares, the penalty on it was, fine of 1,000. Without hesitation, I took out my cell phone and transferred 1,000 to Ling Ling, and then I had to keep a close eye on Ling Ling's movements, so I could be completely sure of what I had in mind. Only to see Ling Ling pick up the dice, index finger in the cover of the other hand, gently tap the dice twice, and then roll down. 6 points. Ling Ling picked up the piece and moved it 6 squares before slowly putting it down. This square was a space and there was no penalty. Big Brother Zhou, I'm really lucky, you have to work hard, I really hope you can get that ultimate prize. Ling Ling's words were filled with anticipation and joy, and although her voice was still pleasant to the ear, I did let out a cold snort in my heart. Just wait, I'm definitely going to get the final prize, after all, there's such a beautiful one cheering me on again, I'll definitely get it today. I said with my mouth, but in my mind I figured everything out. This new dice was filled with mercury. Back then, I was also a punk who did not like to study, often liked to play Pai-Gow with friends, especially during that time, and came out a few movies about gambling, but also for this aspect of the obsession of the tight. So began to study and ponder by themselves, also bought the kind of dice filled with mercury to practice at home, so for this kind of dice is very familiar with. Just in the first time to get the dice I found the weight is not right, and my heart is also slowly sinking. I'm afraid that this is not some night beauty to play games with you so simple, and I'm afraid that I spent out of those money is not easy to get back, this is likely to be someone in the back to do a bureau. First of all, the use of beautiful women to play games with you as a gimmick, the sight of the men where to see this level of beauty, naturally one by one on the head, began to drill into the trap, followed by the dice on the article. From the just Ling Ling's small action can be seen, some of these women have undergone some training, but the technique is still very young, so a glance was I saw the problem. But I'm afraid others will not have me so lucky to see the doorway, not to mention also tell you, as long as you win the game will be able to get all the money back, this point is the perfect use of the gambler's psychology. It looks like the person who set up this game is definitely a person who is well versed in the psychology of gamblers. This time things are a bit difficult to do, I can only choose to take a step and see what happens. Now that I understood the way of the game, a halfwit like Ling Ling naturally couldn't compare to me. I first showed my weakness, making Ling Ling think that she could successfully slaughter another one today. Then it was time for me to perform. Tonight, I'll make you lose everything. When I shake the dice, I can tap the 6-point side a few times, so that the mercury becomes run back to the 1-point side, and the 1-point side naturally becomes a little heavier. That's how the weight of the point is deflected, and all I need to do is roll the dice. 6 point. 6. 6 points. As I threw again and again, Ling Ling was no longer as relaxed and happy as she was just now, but instead was a bit worried. How come Big Brother Zhou is suddenly so powerful? He can throw 6 points every time. I looked at Ling Ling, who feigned adoration, a naive smile on my face. It should be that your encouragement to let me win the grand prize has worked. I didn't believe it. I had a cell phone in my hand, not to mention that I was a big man who wasn't afraid of Ling Ling playing tricks on me. With my last 5 points rolled, I finally won the game. I looked at Ling Ling, who was a bit embarrassed but barely managed to pull a smile out of her face, and the anticipation in her eyes was not hidden at all. Ling Ling, I'm the one who won now, so. As if Ling Ling was also resigned to her fate, the smile on her face was no longer helpless, but rather, she had posted up in style. Early in the morning when I left, all the money that was taken away last night because of the punishment returned to my hands, and also ate Ling Ling dry. Simply don't be too proud. I don't even have a little bit of pity for the idea. But looking at Ling Ling's behavior, she seemed to like my somewhat rough treatment as well. Just after returning to the dormitory, I saw Old Blue with a sad face. As soon as he saw me, his first words were to borrow money again, saying that his child's condition had worsened again and he still needed $10,000. After last night's events, in fact, for the doorway of which I have felt clear, so Sex and Old Blue to pick things up. After some of my explanation, Lalu immediately became jaw-dropping. Cannot believe what I said. Believe it or not, just go and take a look at it at night. The day passed quickly for me, but for Old Blue it was a torment. Finally, to 11 o'clock at night, Old Blue took me together to go to the dormitory, the road, and ran into those workers, but this time they are no longer excited, but instead, one by one, they become disturbed, face full of sadness. Finally arrived in front of the dormitory, but today all the rooms are all dark, long gone. All of a sudden everyone realized that they have been cheated, immediately began to cry, cursing those who cheated the money woman. After some inquiries, I learned that the amount of money lost by all the people in the past few days added up to more than $3 million. We immediately called the police and told the police, who came to tell us what happened. But the police face this kind of thing, neither monitoring, nor know the real name of those women, not to mention any other basic information. Almost can be said to be a needle in a haystack. The possibility of recovering the money has been extremely low. Those workers and the police, after hearing this statement, one by one suddenly despaired. Hard work for a year's results are going to be such a waste of money. Early the next morning, I was reluctant to Old Blue pulled to the new dormitory. He felt that the other side will certainly leave some traces, but how can the other side does not handle the traces of clean? He is still too naive. Suddenly, I saw a dice on the ground and remembered the inference I made in Ling Ling's room that day. The other party is bound to be proficient in gambling, and good at utilizing the gambler's psychology, and there is only one person who can know that: those of us who are paid early this year, and who still has the ability to find these women to make a game out of it, and that is the boss of the construction site, Zhao Deming. These things are only he alone is the most clear, and he today early payroll, and early vacation behavior is really too abnormal. You have to know that in the past he hated all of us to work until the night of New Year's Eve and then go back to New Year's Eve, and even more hope that we don't ask him for wages. 2 years ago, because of the arrears of wages with several migrant workers' brothers sued to the court. And from what I've heard, this Zhao Deming flies to Macau every year to have a good time. I immediately told the police my suspicions, which also attracted the police's great attention. 2 days later, Zhao Deming was arrested, and the person who set up this game behind the scenes was indeed him. The money of the workers has been recovered, and Wang Deming this time belongs to a major criminal offense, directly another fine and sentence to imprisonment, listening to Old Blue said, seems to be 15 years. But this is not something I should be concerned about. I am now going to prepare to catch the train home for the new year. Lastly, I would like to give you a reminder, there is no free lunch under the sun, and very often, the free ones are the most expensive ones.